Hey guys, Ark here, bringing to you Chapter 2, Episode 3 of my Learning Night Elf series. This episode we're going to continue on where we last left off in Episode 2 in the Night Elf versus Undead series. One thing I covered last episode was kind of my early fast expansion build versus Undead and kind of the indication of what I'm looking for to decide to do that. This game, it's going to be more of a standard Night Elf versus Undead opening from both sides. This is going to be a game of Pink versus Elegant. They are both either Chinese or Korean players. I'm not 100% sure which. But this game is going to be played on Northern Isles. One thing I did want to just real quick plug before we get started here. You can see on the screen to the left or right there. So I host a tournament called America's Cup. We are having our first season-ending tournament next week, October 5th, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. So be sure to tune into that. It'll be really cool. I have the tournament usually every weekend. But yeah, just wanted to plug that real quick before we get started. So we're gonna jump right into the game. This is Northern Isles again. And I'm at 5x. Let's slow it down a little bit. So kind of the things that I wanted to touch on in this episode in particular. So Elegant, I've found, is a player that his play style very much matches mine. So I've been watching a lot of his replays lately in all matchups, and so I actually just downloaded this replay today to kind of see what's going on. And his Night Elf versus Undead, very similar to actually my general play style. So you're going to be AOW creeping something early on. So the AOW creeping, I covered that in the basics, but on this map here, it's a little bit harder of a creep camp to creep. So you're going to need 2 wisps to creep this. On other maps, you don't even need any. But ultimately, this creep camp is going to give him a big consumable item, and then level 2. So the real benefit here, I guess we'll take a look at Fog of War on. The real benefit here is it's fast level 2 and a big item. So ultimately, it's not going to make his Demon Hunter stronger overall, but it's something that could turn the tide. That if maybe your Demon Hunter is getting focused and you're trading hits with the DK, that you can pop this, heal it right back up, and continue your harass. But the big thing here is a level 2. So level 2 is essentially the indication that, hey, I'm going to go be annoying against the Undead for my personal playstyle. And so the Wisp Scout here is doing one of 2 things. So the first thing he did initially with that Wisp Scout was scouting what his opening build was. The next thing he did, we saw that he was scouting this creep camp. So there's really 4 things that the Undead can do. He ruled out the 4th one with his Scout. So if we take a look at this base, it's a pretty standard base, and the Wisp Scout being right here, what he ruled out here was a fast expansion, or at least an immediate fast expansion. Because the Undead did not move this pathway, he ruled that out. So there's no immediate fast expansion coming from the Undead. The next thing he ruled out was that the Undead is not going to be creeping a fast level 2, is not going to be going for a slower level 2 by creeping this green camp first. So this green camp's going to give him like a claws or something. So he ruled out this green camp here. And so there's 2 other things that could happen. The Undead could be running straight for the Elf, or the Undead is going to be creeping this camp right here. And so both of them could be potentially realistic. I'd say that this is more of a standard opening if you've already ruled out the 2 other, if you've ruled out the fast expansion or the creep in the green camp. More than likely, the Undead's going to be right here. But that's what the Swift Scout is the purpose of it is. So we'll take it off, and so he just runs his Wisp right back down to here. He's going to use it for a later time, and actually he's running down the middle too. So if the Undead was running straight forward for him, he's either going to be at this green camp, or this green camp. This green camp is kind of hard to do with just skeletons, and he's unlikely to bring ghouls along with him if he does that. This is a little bit easier to do, but this Wisp Scout here scouts that out. So we can kind of see the opening from Elegant. He's really narrowed down exactly where the Undead's at, and this Wisp Scout here just confirmed it. He is creeping this as level 2. So now you can kind of see how important scouting is. So a player such as Elegant is thinking through this all in his mind of what is he ruling out, where is the Undead going to be, and kind of the purpose of that is that he wants to harass immediately. So the thing that would be really nice is stopping level 2 from the Undead. That means no Unholy Aura, everything. Not usually realistic in most games, but That's kind of in his mindset is, hey, I'm going to be annoying. I'm going to try and stop him from getting level 2. If I can't stop him from level 2, I want to deal as much damage as I can. And a couple ways that we'll see him go about doing this. So mana burns, continues being annoying. Pink is actually just going to creep this down still and use a coil to get level 2. So ultimately still level 2. But let's take a look at the HP. So DK is already at less than half HP. Demon Hunter still at full HP plus the greater healing potion. He did get the greater mana potion, so that's going to come in handy later on. But the big things here is the Demon Hunter is immediately focusing the DK. DK's HP is directly, or how do I say this? When you're going to harass the undead, in terms of attack priorities, you're going to be looking at DK, ghouls, skeletons, in that order. So the heroes number 1, ghouls are number 2, skeletons number 3. The purpose for that is skeletons are just they're not real units. They're gonna be killed eventually. So you're gonna have the lowest attack priority on those simply because you're just gonna attack them if there's nothing else to attack. Ghouls have second priority simply because ghouls by themselves are not that scary if your hero is there. And so they're not the highest priority because if you can force the undead hero away from the ghouls, then it's really easy for you to take care of the ghouls. Which leads into why the DK is the number 1 priority. DK being the number 1 priority, if you can force that DK away from the fight, there's no unholy aura for the fight. Ghouls are easily focused down. And that's kind of the idea behind that attack priority. Ultimately, though, you want to keep up this harass as long as you can, and so you don't want to take any unnecessary damage from your DH. So if you have to take quite a bit of damage to attack one of those attack priorities, move down the list. And that's kind of the thought process you'll want to go as you're playing this game. So we can see Elegant is kind of utilizing that idea, just right-clicking the DK. A little bit of miss micro there, but for the most part, he's just focusing on this DK, pushing him out of the fight, and then eventually, if the ghouls still fought as archers, he would just fight them. Now, at this point, he has very little archers, so it's not like he's really going to take care of any of the ghouls, but that's kind of the ideas of what he's thinking. And then as he's continuing to be annoying, the DK had to actually pop a ritual dagger. But essentially, he's able to cancel this graveyard, or potentially cancel this graveyard, because of the damage he's done to his DK. Because if all he has is ghouls to defend this, it's really easy to take care of the ghouls with your hero and the archer. So he does cancel it, goes for this round, and then just immediately right-clicks the DK again. And another thing that we're seeing happen is that the archers are being kept alive. Archers are super important. If you have to lose archers to do this trade, it's not an effective trade. And so that's going to lead us into tier 2. Basically, he's going to keep this up all the way into tier 2, and it's just kind of a micro skirmish or micro fights here. Not really expecting to end the game with this, but he's just being annoying, causing the undead to not creep level 3. And then we actually see the popping of the greater mana potion and then the coil. And this is where it starts to turn downhill for Elegant really fast. So there's a fine line between aggression and knowing when to back off. So in this matchup in particular, it's very key because kind of, especially if you're going to be going a Naga second, and the archer count was, let's see, only 3. So, I mean, he didn't have a whole lot of units as well. But the second he saw that tier 2 was done, he had a low HP Demon Hunter. He didn't have his second hero. His attempts at delaying this graveyard or other buildings, you're not going to get anything out of it anymore because of the slow tower, or the Halls of the Dead, which has the slow attack. If we evaluate this replay, I think we can recognize that there's a point during this harass that Elegant should have backed off and healed up. If he wanted to continue harassing, he certainly could have done that. He would have just had to heal his Demon Hunter, come back with his army, but he doesn't want to engage in the base because of this Halls of the Dead. Now, he did actually tech, so I mean, if there was no slow tower, then it's a different story, but he lost his Demon Hunter, so he can't really do that anymore. And then because of losing that Demon Hunter, it buys the Undead so much space to just freely creep up. But the Demon Hunter is back. He taverned it back, actually. So, again, he's just maintaining this aggression because otherwise he's only going to have 2 archers to creep. Not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of units either. And so, ultimately, I like this play. It's just a matter of had he made this play without losing his Demon Hunter the first time, it would have been such a stronger play. So that's kind of what we'd be transitioning to, and so that's how you transition into tier 2. Once you hit tier 2, if you recognize the Fiend build, you're going to be placing one lore and then tech and then second lore. Basically, you're trying to get your bears out pretty quickly. Kind of the idea behind your aggression is being super aggressive is going to delay him enough that your buildings are freely going to get up, and you're going to be on the way to tier 3. That by the time if they actually did their tier 3 aggression, you already have everything you need to delay it even further. If you don't make those trades and the DK freely creeps up, you're looking at a tier 3 push of probably a 4-2 hero level wise, DK Lich, and then a third hero. And because you don't have really enough units to creep during that time, you're very likely not going to have matching hero levels to combat that, which is going to put you in a really difficult situation. So the early aggression against Undead is very important. And that's kind of the ideas behind where that comes from and why you want to do it. Then at this point, he's just going to switch over into creeping. And we're actually getting close to the end of this video here. The real keys that I want to focus on. So everything after this point, I feel like is not as important. And the reason why it's not as important is because Elegant has gotten to this position after losing a Demon Hunter and 2 Archers, I believe. All the mistakes that went into getting to this position are things that can very easily be addressed and changed. And so at this point in the time, the Undead has a decent position. He's going to be creeping up and everything. It's difficult to recreate this situation. What I would say is the hyper aggression was really good. But you just have to know when to actually back off and start creeping yourself. That's the key here. If he had crept, or if he didn't lose his Demon Hunter, backed off, healed up, did the same type of aggression he did here, and then TP'd out, he'd be in a way better position from the fact that his Demon Hunter would have not given level 3 to the DK, and so this whole fight here could have looked very different. It still would have been a micro fight and everything, but that's kind of the keys here. So early game is very important versus Undead. You're going to creep pretty early, identify what he's doing. This is probably the race that matters the most. So you want to scout out where he's creeping, and then you want to be aggressive. You want to keep his level to level 2, and you don't want to trade any units for it. Ideally, you don't even want to trade any HP for it either. That will allow you to keep your harass going all the way into his tier 2. Once he actually is tier 2, and you get that initial Frost Tower attacks, you really need to back off. You can't do any aggression inside his base during that time. So if you're hurt or something, you need to just back off, heal up, and then you can either look to creep his side of the map further if you've done a lot of damage early on, or you're just going to continue that annoyance up until the point where his army is just not realistic for your archers to combat him with. Because ultimately you don't want to lose archers. That's the biggest thing. So if you feel like you can't be aggressive on him without losing archers, that's usually the point that you want to go back to your side of the map, start creeping your own camps, or at least maybe aggressively focus on his camps in general and not so much his army. So with that said, guys, we're gonna call it quits for chapter 2, episode 3. Another matchup versus Undead. Probably the next episode we'll be looking at a different race, probably versus Orc. I want to cover Druids of the Talon, and yeah, so we'll start working on that next. All right, take care, guys. Thank you. Bye.